Maya's alarm went off at 6 in the morning, but she'd barely slept anyway. Today was the day that would change everything. At least, that's what she kept telling herself as she stood in front of her tiny bathroom mirror, trying to make her hair cooperate for once. The interview was at 10 o'clock sharp, Sterling and Associates, one of the biggest marketing firms in the entire city. Maya had sent out maybe 100 applications over the past 3 months, and this was the only callback that actually mattered. The kind of company that could transform her career from struggling graduate to someone who actually made it. She'd practiced her answers until they were burned into her memory. Tell me about yourself. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What's your greatest weakness? All those questions that made you sound like a robot if you weren't careful, but like an unprepared mess if you didn't practice enough. Maya had walked that tightrope until she felt ready, or at least as ready as anyone could be. Her roommate Jessica was already gone for her own job when Maya finally grabbed her portfolio and headed out the door. The folder was a bit worn at the edges, but inside were her best campaign mock-ups, design concepts, and strategy presentations. Everything she'd worked on during grad school and her brief stint at that soul-crushing call center job she'd quit last month. That had been a risk, a huge one. But Maya couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't spend another day reading scripts to angry customers who just wanted their cable to work. She'd saved up just enough money to survive for a couple months while job hunting. This interview at Sterling and Associates was supposed to be the payoff for that risk. The bus was running late, of course. Maya stood at the stop checking her phone every 30 seconds, watching the minutes tick away. She'd given herself plenty of buffer time, but the city's public transportation had a way of making you regret every careful plan. When the bus finally arrived, it was packed with the morning crowd, and Maya had to stand, clutching the overhead rail with one hand and her portfolio with the other. She got off 3 stops early just to be safe. Better to walk the extra blocks than risk being late. The downtown streets were filled with people in business suits, all of them looking like they knew exactly where they belonged. Maya tried to channel that same energy as she walked, her worn heels clicking against the concrete. She'd bought these shoes at a discount store, but they looked professional enough if you didn't look too close. The morning air was crisp, and Maya could feel her heart beating faster with each block. This was it. This was really it. In less than 15 minutes, she'd be sitting across from the hiring manager, proving that she deserved a shot at the big leagues. She'd practiced her handshake, her smile, even the way she'd place her portfolio on the table. That's when she turned the corner near the last bus stop before the office building, and everything changed. An old woman was slumped on the bench, her body tilted at an angle that just looked wrong. Her walking cane had fallen to the ground, and her purse was halfway off her shoulder. The woman's face was pale, almost gray, and her breathing sounded harsh and difficult even from several feet away. Maya stopped walking. People flowed around her like water around a stone, everyone heading to their own important appointments. A man in a business suit glanced at the woman, frowned slightly, and kept walking. A younger guy with headphones didn't even seem to notice. Everyone had somewhere to be. Maya looked at her phone. 12 minutes until the interview. The old woman's eyes opened slightly, unfocused and scared. Her hand trembled as she tried to reach for something. Maybe her cane, maybe just trying to steady herself. Maya watched her for maybe 3 seconds that felt like an hour. Then she moved. Not toward the Sterling and Associates building, but toward the bench. "Hey, are you okay?" Maya dropped to her knees next to the woman, setting her portfolio down on the concrete without thinking about it. Up close, she could see the woman was struggling badly. Her lips had a slightly blue tinge, and her breathing was getting worse. "Can't breathe right," the old woman managed to whisper. "Something wrong." Maya's hands shook as she pulled out her phone. She dialed 911. and while she waited for someone to pick up, she kept talking to the woman. "It's okay. I'm here. Help is coming. Just hold on." The operator's voice was calm and professional, asking questions Maya tried to answer. What were the symptoms? Was she conscious? Any known medical conditions? Maya didn't know any of this, but she stayed on the line, one hand holding the phone and the other holding the old woman's trembling hand. "They're sending an ambulance," Maya said softly. "It's going to be okay. Just keep breathing. Can you tell me your name?" The woman tried to speak but couldn't get the words out. Her eyes were frightened, and Maya squeezed her hand gently. "It's okay. Don't worry about talking. Just focus on breathing. I'm not going anywhere." People walked past. Some glanced over curiously, but most didn't even slow down. Maya felt a surge of anger at all of them, but pushed it down. Right now, this woman needed her to stay calm and present. The minutes dragged by. Maya glanced at her phone once and saw that her interview had officially started. She was supposed to be walking into that building right now, shaking hands with the hiring manager, making her first impression. Instead, she was kneeling on dirty concrete, holding a stranger's hand. She could still leave. The thought crossed her mind for just a second. The ambulance would be here soon, and someone else could wait with her. Maya could still make it to the interview, maybe only 15 minutes late. She could explain, apologize, maybe still have a chance. But the old woman's grip tightened on her hand, and Maya looked into her frightened eyes and knew she couldn't go anywhere. "I've got you," Maya said quietly. "I'm staying right here." The ambulance arrived about 8 minutes later, though it felt like much longer. The paramedics were quick and efficient, asking questions and checking vitals. One of them, a woman with kind eyes, looked at Maya and nodded. "Good thing you stayed with her. Looks like a severe allergic reaction. You might have saved her life." Maya helped gather the woman's things, her cane and purse, and handed them to the paramedics. As they loaded the woman onto the stretcher, she reached out and grabbed Maya's hand one more time, squeezing it weakly. Her eyes were clearer now, with the oxygen mask helping her breathe, and they held a look of deep gratitude. "Thank you," she mouthed, though no sound came out. Maya watched the ambulance drive away, its lights flashing. Then she stood alone on the sidewalk, her portfolio still sitting on the concrete where she'd dropped it. She picked it up and brushed off the dirt. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from Sterling and Associates. The interview was over. That opportunity, the one she'd bet everything on, was gone. Maya felt the weight of it settling on her shoulders as she started walking back toward the bus stop. She didn't even know the old woman's name, had no way of knowing if she'd be okay, if she had family, if she'd even remember the young woman who'd stayed with her. Maya's hands were still shaking slightly as she rode the bus home. She thought about her dwindling bank account, about Jessica's face when she heard what happened, about all those other job applications still waiting for responses that might never come. But she also thought about that moment of choice, standing on the sidewalk with 12 minutes to spare. And somewhere deep inside, beneath all the worry and regret, Maya knew she'd made the only choice she could live with. She just hoped it wouldn't destroy her. Maya tried calling Sterling and Associates the moment she got home. Her hands were still shaky as she dialed the number, rehearsing what she'd say in her head. There was an emergency. A medical emergency. Someone needed help. It sounded weak even to her own ears, like an excuse people make when they oversleep or forget. The receptionist transferred her to human resources. Maya waited on hold, listening to smooth jazz that did nothing to calm her nerves. When someone finally picked up, the voice was clipped and professional. "This is Linda Chen from HR. I understand you missed your interview this morning." Maya launched into her explanation, the words tumbling out faster than she intended. The old woman, the ambulance, the fact that someone's life was literally on the line. She tried to make it sound as serious as it was, tried to convey that this wasn't just some casual excuse. There was a long pause on the other end. Then Linda spoke, and her tone hadn't warmed even slightly. "Ms. Rodriguez, I appreciate that you encountered a difficult situation. However, we had 6 other candidates scheduled today, all of whom managed to arrive on time. We're looking for people who understand professional commitment. I'm sure you can appreciate our position." Maya felt something cold settle in her stomach. "I understand that. But this was truly an emergency. If I could just reschedule, I promise I would never—" "Unfortunately, we've decided to move forward with other candidates. Thank you for your interest in Sterling and Associates." The line went dead. Maya sat on her second-hand couch, staring at her phone, feeling like she'd just been punched. She'd known it was a long shot, but hearing it confirmed made it real in a way that hurt more than she'd expected. Jessica came home around 6, dropping her bag by the door with her usual exhausted sigh. She worked as a nurse at the city hospital, pulling long shifts that left her drained. But when she saw Maya's face, she immediately sat down next to her. "What happened? How'd the interview go?" Maya told her everything. The old woman, the ambulance, the phone call with HR. Jessica listened without interrupting, but Maya could see the expressions flickering across her friend's face. Sympathy, yes, but also something else. Disbelief, maybe. Frustration. "I mean, I get it," Jessica said finally, choosing her words carefully. "That's really kind of you, Maya. It is. But there were other people around, right? Someone else could have helped her." "No one was stopping," Maya said quietly. "Everyone just kept walking." "Yeah, but you had this huge interview. This was your shot." Jessica ran a hand through her hair. "I'm just saying, you can't save everyone. Sometimes you have to think about yourself first, you know? That's not selfish. That's just survival." Maya wanted to argue, but she was too tired. And maybe Jessica had a point. Maybe she'd been stupid to throw away her one good opportunity for a stranger she'd never see again. Maybe that's not how the real world worked. The next few days blurred together in a haze of job applications and rejection emails. Maya sent her resume to 20 different companies, including a few she'd previously thought were beneath her standards. Beggars couldn't be choosers, and her bank account was starting to look scary. She got called in for an interview at a small marketing firm that operated out of a converted warehouse. The owner was a guy in his 30s who spent most of the interview talking about his vision for disrupting the industry. The salary he offered was barely above minimum wage, and there were no benefits. Maya said she'd think about it, knowing she'd probably have to take it if nothing else came through. At night, she lay awake thinking about that morning. She wondered if the old woman was okay, if she'd recovered, if she even remembered the young woman who'd stayed with her. Maya had left the hospital before getting any information, too stressed about salvaging her day to think about asking for a name or contact information. Sometimes she played the what-if game. What if she'd kept walking like everyone else? What if someone else had stopped? What if she'd left as soon as the ambulance arrived? Would she have a job right now? Would her whole life be different? But every time she got to the end of that thought spiral, she came back to the same place. She'd seen that woman's frightened eyes, felt her trembling hand, watched her struggle to breathe. And Maya knew, deep in her bones, that she couldn't have walked away. It wasn't in her. Maybe that made her naive or stupid or bad at surviving in the real world. But it was the truth. 2 weeks crawled by. Maya took a temporary job doing data entry for a logistics company. It was mind-numbing work, typing numbers into spreadsheets for 8 hours a day. The pay was terrible, but it was something. Her co-workers were nice enough, though they all seemed to be in the same boat, taking whatever work they could find while hoping for something better. During her lunch break, Maya would sit in the small break room and scroll through job listings on her phone. Marketing coordinator positions, social media managers, anything that might use her actual skills. She applied to all of them, customizing her cover letter each time, trying to sound enthusiastic and qualified and not at all desperate. The rejections came in steady. We've decided to move forward with other candidates. While your qualifications are impressive, we've found someone who better fits our needs. Thank you for your interest, but we won't be moving forward at this time. Each one stung a little less than the last, which was maybe worse. Maya was getting numb to disappointment. Jessica tried to be supportive, but Maya could tell her roommate was getting worried. Their rent was due in 2 weeks. And while Maya had enough to cover her half this month, next month was looking questionable. They didn't talk about it directly, but the tension was there, hovering in the air between them. One evening, Maya was heating up instant noodles for dinner when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, figuring it was probably a spam call or maybe another rejection she didn't want to hear, but something made her pick up. Hello, is this Maya Rodriguez? The voice was male, professional, with the kind of crisp diction that suggested expensive education. Yes, this is Maya. My name is Robert Chen. I'm the executive assistant to Eleanor Whitmore. I believe you met Mrs. Whitmore approximately 2 weeks ago, though you may not have gotten her name at the time. Maya's mind went blank for a second. Then it clicked. The old woman, the bench, the ambulance. Is she okay? Maya asked immediately. I've been wondering, but I didn't have any way to find out. Is she all right? Mrs. Whitmore is fully recovered, thanks in large part to your quick response. Robert's voice warmed slightly. She's been quite determined to locate you, actually. It took some effort, but we were able to track you down through the ambulance service records. Maya felt a wave of relief wash over her. The woman was okay. That was something, at least. That made the whole disaster feel slightly less pointless. I'm so glad she's all right, Maya said. Please tell her I'm happy she recovered. Actually, Mrs. Whitmore would very much like to tell you herself. Would you be available for a meeting tomorrow afternoon? Say, 2 o'clock. Maya glanced at her calendar, which was depressingly empty. Her data entry job was just temporary, filling in for someone on vacation, and tomorrow was one of her days off. I could do that, she said carefully. Where would you like to meet? Robert gave her an address in Riverside, the wealthy part of the city where Maya had never had any reason to go. The kind of neighborhood with tree-lined streets and historic brownstones that probably cost more than Maya would earn in a lifetime. Just to confirm, Maya said, feeling slightly surreal about the whole conversation. She just wants to say thank you? That's really not necessary. I'm just glad she's okay. Mrs. Whitmore is quite insistent, Robert replied, and Maya could hear the smile in his voice. She's not someone who takes no for an answer easily. I think you'll find it worth your time. After they hung up, Maya stood in her small kitchen, her instant noodles forgotten and getting cold. Jessica had come out of her room and was looking at her with raised eyebrows. What was that about? The woman, Maya said slowly. The one from the interview day. She wants to meet me. Jessica's expression shifted to something between curious and concerned. That's kind of weird, isn't it? I mean, it's nice she wants to say thank you, but tracking you down through hospital records? Yeah, Maya admitted. It is kind of weird. But the next afternoon, Maya found herself putting on her interview outfit again and taking the bus across town to Riverside. She didn't know what to expect. Maybe the old woman would give her some money as a thank you. Though Maya wasn't sure how she felt about that, maybe she just wanted to meet the person who'd helped her. Maya stood outside the address Robert had given her, staring up at an elegant brownstone that screamed old money. The door had actual carved details in the wood, and the brass knocker probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent. She took a deep breath and climbed the steps. Whatever this was, at least it was something different. At least it was a break from the monotony of rejection and desperation that had become her life. Maya knocked on the door and waited to see what would happen next. The door opened before Maya could knock a second time. Robert Chen stood there, looking exactly like he'd sounded on the phone, mid-40s, impeccably dressed in a gray suit, with an air of quiet efficiency that made Maya immediately aware of her discount store outfit. "Ms. Rodriguez, thank you for coming. Please, come in." Maya stepped into a foyer that looked like something from a museum. Hardwood floors that gleamed under the soft lighting, a chandelier that was probably an antique, artwork on the walls that might have been original pieces. She tried not to gawk, but it was hard. This was the kind of wealth she'd only seen in movies. Robert led her through the house, and Maya caught glimpses of other rooms. A library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. A dining room with a table that could seat at least 12 people. Everything was tasteful and expensive in that quiet way that really rich people preferred. Nothing flashy, but everything screaming quality. They arrived at a sunlit sitting room at the back of the house. Large windows overlooked a private garden, and the furniture was the kind of comfortable that only came from things that cost thousands of dollars. And sitting in a high-backed chair near the window was the woman from the bench. She looked completely different. Her hair was silver and perfectly styled. She wore an elegant cream-colored blouse and tailored pants. Her posture was straight, her eyes alert and sharp. This wasn't a frail old woman struggling to breathe. This was someone who commanded rooms, someone used to being in charge. "Ms. Rodriguez," the woman said, and her voice was warm but carried authority. "Please sit down. I'm Eleanor Whitmore, though I suppose we've already met under rather dramatic circumstances." Maya sat on the edge of an antique sofa, feeling completely out of her depth. "It's good to see you looking so much better, Mrs. Whitmore. I've been worried about you." Eleanor's eyes crinkled with what looked like genuine amusement. "Have you? That's kind of you, considering you don't even know me." She paused, studying Maya with an intensity that made her slightly uncomfortable. "Robert, would you bring us some tea, please?" Robert nodded and disappeared, leaving Maya alone with Eleanor. The silence stretched for a moment, and Maya wasn't sure what to say. "Thank you for inviting me. Sorry I didn't stay at the hospital longer. This is a really nice house." Eleanor saved her from the awkwardness. "I imagine you're wondering why I asked you here." "A little," Maya admitted. "I mean, I'm glad you're okay. That's the main thing. But Mr. Chen said you went through some effort to find me." "I did. You see, what happened that morning was a severe allergic reaction. I'd had breakfast at a new cafe, and apparently they used almond milk in my coffee despite my clearly stating my allergy. By the time I realized something was wrong, I was already in trouble." Eleanor's expression grew serious. "The doctors told me that if I'd been alone for much longer, I might not have made it. The reaction was progressing quickly." Maya felt a chill run through her. She'd known it was serious, but hearing it stated so plainly made it real in a new way. "I'm just glad I was there," Maya said quietly. "That's the interesting part, isn't it?" Eleanor leaned forward slightly. "You were there. You stopped. Do you know how many people walked past me that morning?" Robert reviewed the security footage from nearby businesses. "We counted 17 people who looked directly at me and kept walking. 17. Maya didn't know what to say to that. It made her angry and sad at the same time, thinking about all those people too busy or too afraid to help. "But you stopped," Eleanor continued. "And according to the ambulance crew's report, you missed something important to stay with me. An interview, they said you mentioned." Maya felt her cheeks heat up. "It's fine. I mean, it wasn't fine, but it's done now. Some things are more important than a job interview." Eleanor's smile was slight but knowing. "Most 26-year-olds wouldn't agree with you, especially not in this economy, and especially not when they're struggling to find work." "How did you know I'm 26? Maya asked, then felt foolish. Of course this woman had done her research. "I make it my business to know things," Eleanor said simply, "especially about people who interest me." "Robert?" Robert had returned with a tea service, setting it on the low table between them with practiced ease. He poured 2 cups, and then, without being asked, handed Eleanor a folder from a side table Maya hadn't noticed. Eleanor opened it, and Maya's stomach dropped when she recognized what was inside. Her resume, her portfolio pieces, screenshots of her LinkedIn profile, even what looked like her graduate school transcripts. "I apologize if this feels invasive," Eleanor said, not sounding particularly apologetic. "But I'm old, Ms. Rodriguez. I don't have time for inefficiency. So when I meet someone interesting, I do my homework." Maya's mind was racing. This was either really flattering or really creepy, and she couldn't quite decide which. Eleanor flipped through the pages slowly. Bachelor's degree in marketing and communications, master's in business administration, top 15% of your class, internship at Riverside Creative where you helped develop a campaign that increased client engagement by 40%, brief employment at Tech Call Solutions, which you quit 5 weeks ago. She looked up. "I'm curious about that decision. Most people in your financial situation wouldn't quit without having something else lined up." Maya shifted uncomfortably. "I couldn't do it anymore. Reading scripts to angry people all day, selling them things they didn't need. It was making me miserable. I thought if I focused on finding the right job instead of just surviving, I'd have a better shot." "And how's that working out for you?" The question should have stung, but Eleanor's tone was curious rather than judgmental. Maya decided to be honest. "Not great," she admitted. "The interview I missed was supposed to be my big break. Sterling and Associates. I've applied to probably 50 places since then. Most don't respond, and the ones that do aren't offering anything close to what I'm qualified for." Eleanor nodded slowly, closing the folder. "Sterling and Associates. I know Linda Chen, the HR director there. Competent woman, but rigid. Probably didn't want to hear your explanation." "She wasn't interested, no." "Their loss," Eleanor said simply. She took a sip of her tea, and Maya reached for her own cup just to have something to do with her hands. The tea was incredible. Probably the kind that cost more per ounce than Maya's grocery budget. "Ms. Rodriguez, let me tell you a little about myself. I founded Whitmore Enterprises 42 years ago. Started with one small office and a loan I had no business taking out. Built it into a multinational corporation with interests in technology, real estate, venture capital. Retired 5 years ago as CEO, though I still sit on several boards." She paused. "In those 42 years, I learned a lot about people, about character, about what really matters in business." Maya listened, trying to figure out where this was going. "I've hired hundreds of people over the years. Some had perfect resumes and terrible character. Others had rough edges but core integrity. Want to guess which group was more successful in the long run?" "The ones with integrity," Maya ventured. "Every single time." Eleanor set down her teacup. "Do you know what's rare in business? Real, genuine integrity. The kind that makes you sacrifice your own interests for someone else's welfare. The kind that can't be taught or faked." She fixed Maya with that sharp gaze again. "You have that. I saw it that morning, and everything I've learned about you since confirms it." Maya's heart was starting to beat faster. This felt like it was building toward something, but she was afraid to assume. "I run a foundation now," Eleanor continued. "The Whitmore Foundation. We fund education and healthcare initiatives worldwide, scholarships for underprivileged students, medical research, community health programs. Last year, we distributed over $20 million in grants and support." $20 million. Maya could barely wrap her head around that number. "The foundation needs a new marketing director. Someone to develop our public campaigns, manage our brand presence, coordinate with our project managers to tell the stories of the people we help. Someone who understands that marketing isn't just about selling products, it's about connecting people to causes they care about." Eleanor leaned back in her chair. The position pays $85,000 a year with full benefits, 4 weeks vacation, and opportunities for advancement. You'd have a team of 3 to start with and room to grow as our initiatives expand. Maya's mouth had gone completely dry. $85,000. That was almost double what Sterling and Associates had been offering. That was life-changing money. "I don't understand," Maya managed to say. "You don't even know me. We met for maybe 20 minutes while I waited for an ambulance." "I know that when you had to choose between your own future and a stranger's immediate need, you chose to help. I know you're qualified for the work. I know you're currently doing data entry for a logistics company because you're too proud to move back in with your parents in Arizona." Eleanor smiled. "See? I do my homework." Maya's mind was spinning. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen in real life. "Why?" she asked. "Why me? You could hire anyone. Someone with more experience, with connections, with a proven track record at major organizations." Eleanor was quiet for a moment. And when she spoke, her voice was softer than before. "Because 42 years ago, when I was starting my company, I got food poisoning the night before a crucial investor meeting. I was violently ill, alone in my apartment, and I thought about calling an ambulance but didn't want to miss the meeting. A neighbor heard me through the walls and broke down my door. Literally broke it down. She stayed with me, took me to the hospital, called my investors to reschedule. I didn't even know her name." Eleanor's eyes were distant, remembering. "I never got the chance to thank her properly. She moved away before I could track her down. I've thought about her countless times over the years, about the kindness of stopping to help someone, no questions asked, no reward expected." She refocused on Maya. "So, when I have the chance to help someone who showed that same kindness, I take it. Consider it paying forward a 42-year-old debt." Maya felt tears prickling at her eyes. She blinked them back, not wanting to cry in front of this elegant woman in her elegant house. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll take the job," Eleanor replied. "Say you'll come to the foundation Monday morning and start making a difference in people's lives. Say you'll let me mentor you the way I wish someone had mentored me at your age." Maya thought about her tiny apartment, her dwindling bank account, the stack of rejection emails in her inbox. She thought about Jessica's worried face and the mind-numbing data entry work and the constant fear that she'd made a huge mistake quitting her job. But mostly she thought about that morning on the bench, holding a frightened woman's hand, making the only choice she could live with. "Yes," Maya said. "Yes, I'll take it." Eleanor smiled, and it transformed her entire face. "Good. Robert will send you all the details this evening." "Welcome to the Whitmore Foundation, Maya. Something tells me this is the beginning of something extraordinary." Maya walked out of that brownstone feeling like she'd stepped into someone else's life. The bus ride home seemed surreal, watching the expensive neighborhood fade into familiar middle-class streets, then into her own working-class area with its chain stores and cracked sidewalks. She kept touching her phone in her pocket, where Robert had already sent a detailed email with start date, benefits information, and a welcome packet. $85,000 a year. Maya had grown up watching her parents struggle on much less. Her mom cleaned houses, her dad worked construction when his back allowed it. They'd been so proud when she got into college, even prouder when she finished her master's degree. But there had always been this unspoken worry that all that education wouldn't actually translate into a better life. Now Maya was going to make more money than both her parents combined had ever earned in a single year. Jessica was in the kitchen when Maya got home making dinner. The smell of garlic and onions filled their small apartment, and for a moment, everything felt normal. Then Jessica turned around and saw Maya's face. "Okay, spill. What happened? Did the old lady give you some kind of reward?" Maya sat down at their tiny kitchen table, the same one they'd bought secondhand 3 years ago when they first became roommates. She offered me a job. Jessica blinked. What? Like, out of gratitude? Doing what, being her assistant or something? Marketing director for her foundation. $85,000 a year. The wooden spoon Jessica was holding clattered into the pan. She stared at Maya like she'd just spoken another language. You're joking. I'm not joking. She runs this huge foundation, the Whitmore Foundation. I start Monday. Maya pulled out her phone and showed Jessica the email. Look, it's real. Jessica read through the email twice, then looked up at Maya with an expression that was hard to read. This is insane. I mean, congratulations, but this is absolutely insane. You miss one interview and somehow end up with an even better job? I know. I keep thinking I'm going to wake up. Who is this woman? Jessica scrolled through the email again. Eleanor Whitmore. That name sounds familiar. They looked her up together on Jessica's laptop. The search results were extensive. Eleanor Whitmore, founder of Whitmore Enterprises, one of the most successful self-made businesswomen of her generation. Articles in Forbes, profile pieces in business magazines, photos from charity galas and corporate events. Her estimated net worth was somewhere in the hundreds of millions. Maya, Jessica said slowly, you saved the life of one of the richest women in the city. I didn't know who she was. She was just someone who needed help. Jessica looked at her friend for a long moment, then pulled her into a hug. You're either the luckiest person alive or the universe actually does reward good people sometimes. I'm going with both. That weekend, Maya could barely sleep. She kept second-guessing everything. What if Eleanor changed her mind? What if Maya showed up Monday and it was all some kind of misunderstanding? What if she wasn't actually qualified and everyone realized she was a fraud? Sunday night, she called her parents. Her mom answered on the second ring, like always. Mija, we were just talking about you. How is the job search going? Maya had been dreading this conversation and looking forward to it at the same time. Actually, Mom, I got a job. I start tomorrow. Her mother's squeal of excitement was loud enough that Maya had to pull the phone away from her ear. She heard her dad in the background asking what was happening. Tell me everything, her mom said. Where? Doing what? Maya explained, leaving out the part about missing the interview because she knew her mom would worry about what could have happened. She focused on the foundation, the work they did, the opportunity to make a real difference. When she mentioned the salary, there was silence on the other end. Mom, you still there? 85,000. Her mother's voice was thick with emotion. Maya, are you sure? That's not a mistake? It's real, Mom. I have the contract and everything. Her father got on the phone then, and Maya heard something in his voice she'd never heard before. Pride, yes, but also relief. Relief that his daughter wouldn't have to struggle the way he had, that all those years of sacrifice and student loans and stress had actually led somewhere. You did it, he said simply. You really did it, Mija. After they hung up, Maya sat on her bed and let herself cry. Happy tears, grateful tears, overwhelmed tears, all of it mixing together into something she couldn't quite name. Monday morning arrived too fast and too slow at the same time. Maya wore her interview outfit again, the third time for these same clothes. They felt lucky now, like they'd been part of the journey that led her here. She took the bus downtown, but this time she got off in the business district, walking to an address Robert had provided. The Whitmore Foundation occupied 3 floors of a modern glass building. The lobby was bright and welcoming, with photos on the walls showing the people and projects the foundation supported, kids in classrooms with new computers, medical clinics in rural areas, community centers offering job training. The receptionist smiled warmly when Maya introduced herself. Oh yes, Ms. Rodriguez. We've been expecting you. Let me take you up. The third floor was open and collaborative, nothing like the corporate stuffiness Maya had expected. People worked in clusters, talking animatedly about projects. The walls were covered with maps and timelines and photos. It felt alive, purposeful. Robert was waiting by the elevator. "Good morning, Maya. Welcome to your first day. Eleanor wanted to meet with you briefly before I show you around." Eleanor's office was in the corner, with windows overlooking the city. But it wasn't ostentatious. The desk was large but practical, covered with files and reports. Bookshelves lined one wall, packed with everything from business texts to novels. Eleanor herself was on the phone, but gestured for Maya to sit. "I understand completely, but I really think we should increase the grant amount," Eleanor was saying. "These kids need sustained support, not just a one-time gift. Let's discuss it at Thursday's meeting." She hung up and turned her full attention to Maya. "How are you feeling? Nervous?" "Terrified," Maya admitted. "Good. That means you care." Eleanor stood and walked to the window. "Let me tell you what I see when I look at you, Maya. I see someone who's smart enough to do this job, but more importantly, I see someone who understands what this work is really about. It's not about making ourselves feel good. It's not about putting our name on buildings. It's about connecting resources to real human needs in ways that actually make a difference." She turned back to Maya. "You're going to meet your team today. 3 people, all smart, all dedicated. They've been waiting for a director for 2 months, so they're eager to have leadership. Your first big project is our fall campaign. We're launching a new scholarship program for first-generation college students, and we need to get the word out to the communities who need it most." Maya's mind was already spinning with ideas. Social media strategies, community partnerships, storytelling that put the students first rather than the foundation. "I have some thoughts," Maya said, then caught herself. "Sorry, is it okay if I share thoughts already?" Eleanor laughed, a real genuine laugh. "Maya, I hired you for your thoughts. Share away." They spent the next hour talking about the campaign, about the foundation's mission, about Eleanor's vision for growth. Maya found herself relaxing, getting excited, contributing ideas that Eleanor actually listened to and built upon. This wasn't just a job. This was exactly the kind of work she'd dreamed about in graduate school, before reality and bills and survival mode had taken over. Robert eventually interrupted to take Maya to meet her team. There was Kim, a designer in her 30s with purple streaks in her hair, who immediately showed Maya the mock-ups she'd been working on. There was Devin, a fresh-faced 23-year-old who managed their social media and spoke at a speed that suggested he'd had way too much coffee. And there was Patricia, who was probably in her 50s and ran their community partnerships with the calm efficiency of someone who'd seen it all. They welcomed Maya warmly, clearly relieved to have someone in charge again. Over coffee in the small break room, they caught her up on ongoing projects, internal dynamics, and which board members were the most demanding. "Eleanor's incredible," Kim said. "Demanding but fair. She'll push you, but she'll also support you. Just don't try to BS her. She can spot it from a mile away." The day flew by in a blur of meetings, introductions, and information. Maya's head was spinning by lunch, which Patricia insisted they all eat together at a nearby cafe. It was the kind of place where everything was organic and overpriced, but Patricia said it was a team tradition for someone's first day. "So what's your story?" Devin asked, between bites of his quinoa bowl. "How'd you land this gig? Eleanor's usually pretty intense about the hiring process." Maya wasn't sure how much to share. "We met kind of by accident. She was impressed enough to offer me the position." Kim raised an eyebrow. "Eleanor Whitmore doesn't do anything by accident. But hey, she clearly saw something in you. That's good enough for us." By the end of the day, Maya's feet hurt, and her brain felt like it had absorbed about 10 times more information than it could hold. But she also felt something she hadn't felt in months. Purpose. Excitement. The sense that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Eleanor caught her by the elevator as she was leaving. How was day one? Overwhelming, amazing, terrifying. All of it at once. Perfect. Eleanor smiled. Same time tomorrow. Oh, and Maya? That thing you said in our meeting about centering the students' voices in the campaign rather than making it about the foundation? That's exactly the kind of thinking we need. Run with it. On the bus home, Maya watched the city go by and thought about how fast life could change. 3 weeks ago, she'd been kneeling on dirty concrete, holding the hand of a stranger, making a choice that felt like it was costing her everything. Now she understood that sometimes losing what you think you want is how you find what you actually need. Jessica was waiting when she got home, with takeout Chinese food and an expectant expression. Well? Maya dropped her bag and flopped onto the couch. I think I'm going to love this job. Yeah? Yeah. It's real, Jess. It's all real. The team is great, the work is meaningful, and Eleanor is this amazing mix of tough and kind. Maya felt tears prickling her eyes again. I keep thinking about that morning. If I'd walked past her like everyone else, if I'd chosen that interview, I'd probably be working at Sterling & Associates right now, selling things people don't need, wondering if this was all there was. Jessica sat down next to her. The universe works in weird ways. Or maybe it's simpler than that, Maya said. Maybe when you make choices based on what kind of person you want to be, life has a way of working out. Not always, and not for everyone, but sometimes. For some of us. If we're really, really lucky. They ate their Chinese food straight from the containers, watching bad television and talking about nothing important. But Maya felt different, lighter, like she'd been carrying a weight she didn't even know was there, and someone had finally lifted it off her shoulders. Tomorrow she'd go back to the foundation. She'd dive into that scholarship campaign, work with her team, learn from Eleanor. She'd start building something real. But tonight, she just sat with her best friend and felt grateful for every choice that had led her to this moment. 6 months passed in what felt like both a blur and a lifetime. Maya settled into her role at the Whitmore Foundation in ways that surprised even herself. The scholarship campaign she'd developed launched in September, and within the first month, they'd received over 3,000 applications from first-generation students across the state. Maya had insisted on a different approach than traditional scholarship advertising. Instead of just listing requirements and deadlines, her team created video stories featuring current scholarship recipients. Real kids talking about their struggles and dreams, their families' sacrifices, their fears about affording college. Devin had edited them beautifully, and Kim had designed a website that made the application process simple and welcoming instead of intimidating. The response had been overwhelming. Local news picked up the stories. High school counselors shared the videos. Parents who'd never thought college was possible for their kids started asking questions, and Eleanor had watched it all unfold with a satisfied smile that told Maya she'd made the right call. But it wasn't just about the work. Maya had discovered something unexpected in Eleanor herself. Every Thursday afternoon, they met for tea in Eleanor's office. At first, Maya thought it was just a check-in about projects and progress. But the conversations quickly evolved into something deeper. Eleanor talked about her early years building Whitmore Enterprises, the mistakes she'd made, the people who doubted her, the times she'd almost given up. She talked about being a woman in business in the 70s and 80s, fighting for respect in rooms full of men who thought she was there to serve coffee. She talked about the loneliness of success, about how hard it was to know who genuinely cared about you versus who just wanted something from you. And Maya found herself opening up too. About growing up watching her parents struggle, about the pressure of being the first in her family to go to college, the weight of everyone's hopes riding on her shoulders, about the shame she'd felt when she couldn't immediately turn her degrees into the kind of success everyone expected. "You know what nobody tells you?" Eleanor said one Thursday, looking out her window at the city below. "Success isn't a straight line. It's not even a crooked line. It's more like a spider web, all these different threads connecting in ways you can't see until much later." Maya thought about that a lot, about how missing that interview had felt like the end of everything, but had actually been a thread leading her exactly where she needed to go. The foundation became more than just a workplace. Patricia took Maya under her wing, teaching her the politics of nonprofit work, how to manage difficult board members, and which donors needed careful handling. Kim became a friend, someone Maya could grab lunch with and complain about design revisions or celebrate small victories. Even Devin, with his endless energy and millennial optimism, taught Maya not to take everything so seriously. Maya moved out of the apartment she shared with Jessica. Not because their friendship had changed, but because she could finally afford her own place. A small one-bedroom in a decent neighborhood, nothing fancy, but hers. The first night in her new apartment, she sat on the floor eating pizza because her furniture hadn't arrived yet, and she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Security, stability, the sense that she wasn't one bad month away from disaster. She started sending money home to her parents. Not huge amounts, but enough to help with their bills. Enough that her dad could finally get his back checked by a specialist. Enough that her mom could cut back on some of her cleaning jobs. They protested at first, said she should save for her own future. But Maya insisted. What was the point of success if she couldn't share it with the people who'd sacrificed everything for her? The fall campaign wrapped up successfully, and they began planning for the winter initiatives. Maya proposed a partnership with community health clinics to provide free mental health services for college students. Eleanor loved it, and within weeks they had funding approved and clinics signed on. But it was a random Tuesday in November when something happened that reminded Maya why she'd been given this opportunity in the first place. She was leaving the office around 6, later than usual because of a grant proposal deadline. The building was mostly empty, just a few dedicated souls still working. As Maya walked toward the elevator, she noticed one of the interns, a young woman named Priya, sitting in the break room with her head in her hands. Maya almost kept walking. She was tired, had plans to meet Jessica for dinner, and everyone had their bad days. But something about the girl's posture, the defeated slump of her shoulders, made Maya stop. "Hey, Priya, you okay?" The girl looked up, quickly wiping her eyes. She was maybe 22, bright and eager, always the first to volunteer for extra projects. "Oh, Ms. Rodriguez, yeah, I'm fine. Just a rough day." Maya sat down across from her. "Want to talk about it?" Priya hesitated. Then the words came tumbling out. Her grandmother had fallen and broken her hip. She was in the hospital across town, scared and alone because Priya's parents were out of the country for work. Priya needed to go be with her, but she had a major presentation tomorrow for the board meeting. She'd been working on it for weeks, and she was terrified of letting everyone down. Maya listened, seeing herself in this girl's torn expression. The weight of responsibility pulling in one direction, the call of family pulling in another. "Go to your grandmother," Maya said without hesitation. "But the presentation—" "I'll handle the presentation. You have all the materials ready, right? I can walk the board through it. Family comes first, Priya. Always." The relief on the girl's face was immediate and profound. "Are you sure? I don't want to dump this on you." "I'm sure. Go, be with your grandmother. That's where you need to be right now." After Priya left, practically running to catch the next bus to the hospital, Maya sat alone in the break room. She thought about that morning 6 months ago, about the choice that had felt so costly in the moment, about how that single decision had led to everything else. She pulled out her phone and texted Eleanor. "Had to take over Priya's presentation for tomorrow. She had a family emergency. Hope that's okay." Eleanor's response came within a minute. "More than okay. That's exactly the kind of leader I hoped you'd become. Maya delivered Priya's presentation the next day. The board was impressed with the intern's work, and no one questioned why Maya was presenting instead. Priya sent her a grateful text with a photo of her grandmother, awake and smiling in her hospital bed. That evening, Eleanor invited Maya to her brownstone for dinner. It was something they'd started doing occasionally, these informal meals where they talked about everything and nothing. Robert usually cooked because apparently he was trained at some fancy culinary school before deciding he preferred being an executive assistant. Over pasta that was better than anything Maya had ever eaten in a restaurant, Eleanor brought up something she'd been considering. "I want to expand the foundation's work," she said. "Open offices in 3 more cities over the next 2 years. We need someone to oversee that expansion, develop the strategy, build the teams." She paused, watching Maya's reaction. "I think you're ready for that role. Director of Strategic Expansion. It would mean more responsibility, more travel, and more money. But more than that, it would mean shaping the foundation's future." Maya set down her fork, her heart racing. "Eleanor, I've only been here 6 months. And in those 6 months, you've proven yourself 10 times over. The scholarship campaign exceeded every goal. Your team respects you, the board trusts you, and most importantly, you understand what this work is really about." Eleanor leaned forward. "I'm not going to live forever, Maya. I need to know that the foundation will continue with the same values after I'm gone. I need to build a leadership team that I can trust with my life's work." The weight of that statement settled over the table. Eleanor wasn't just offering Maya a promotion, she was offering her a legacy, a future, a responsibility that went far beyond marketing campaigns. "I don't know what to say," Maya admitted. "Say you'll think about it. Take your time, talk to people you trust, but know that I believe in you, and I believe you're capable of more than even you realize." Later that night, back in her own apartment, Maya called her parents. She told them about the opportunity, about her fears and doubts, about feeling like maybe she was moving too fast. Her father was quiet for a moment, then said something that stuck with her. "Mija, you know why we work so hard? Why your mother cleaned houses and I broke my back in construction? Because we wanted you to have choices we never had, to have opportunities we couldn't even imagine. This woman sees something in you. Maybe it's time you see it too." Maya thought about the girl she'd been 6 months ago, desperate and scared, thinking one missed interview had destroyed her future. She thought about the choice she'd made that morning, the choice to value human dignity over personal ambition. And she thought about where that choice had led her, the doors it had opened, the person it was helping her become. The next morning, she walked into Eleanor's office with her answer. "I'll do it. I want to help build this thing, to make it last, to reach more people who need it. I'm ready." Eleanor smiled, and Maya saw something in her eyes that looked a lot like pride. "I knew you would be." 6 months after that conversation, Maya stood in the Foundation's newest office in Chicago, watching her team there celebrate their first successful campaign. She'd hired and trained them herself, building on everything Eleanor had taught her. In a month, they'd open another office in Denver, and after that, one in Atlanta. The expansion was working. Lives were being changed, students were getting scholarships, families were accessing health care, communities were receiving support they'd never had before. And Maya was at the center of it all, orchestrating something bigger than she'd ever imagined possible. But what struck her most wasn't the success or the growth or even the impact they were making. It was something simpler and deeper. It was the young staffer in Chicago who'd stayed late to help a struggling applicant fill out paperwork. It was the team member in Denver who'd used their own car to drive supplies to a community center when the delivery fell through. It was watching people choose kindness and service, even when it was inconvenient, even when no one was watching. Maya had learned that character wasn't just about one big moment, one dramatic choice. It was about all the small decisions that added up over time. It was about what kind of person you chose to be when it mattered and when it didn't. That morning on the bench, holding a stranger's hand, missing an interview that seemed so important at the time, Maya had made a choice about who she wanted to be. And everything else had followed from that. Not because good deeds always get rewarded, not because the universe keeps some cosmic scoreboard, but because when you live according to your values, when you choose compassion even when it costs you something, you become the kind of person who attracts opportunities that align with who you really are. Maya's life had changed forever that day. Not just because she met Eleanor, not just because she got a job, but because she'd proven to herself that even under pressure, even when scared, even when everything was on the line, she was someone who would stop to help. And that person, it turned out, was capable of more than she'd ever dreamed.